continuing our monthly discussion of the captains. We are up to Captain Kirk, chronologically.
James T.
Thoughts, feelings, how do we feel about Kirk? He is the original. Some would say the greatest. Some would say the most overrated. Some would say other adjectives. But how do we feel about Captain Kirk?
So last week I upset everyone and said that Jonathan Archer was like my number 5 of 5. This week, I'm going to upset some more people.
Oh dear.
And I'm going to tell them that James T. Kirk is my number 4 of 5.
Number 4 of 5, really?
He is, he's number 4 of 5. Don't get me wrong, I said last week I like Archer.
Yeah.
People took me out of context and they thought I was an Archer hater. I'm not an Archer hater. I'm fine with him letting T'Pol take the lead and everything. But in this case, with Mr. Captain Kirk, I thought there were some really cool bits in the original series and in the films, to be honest, where he made some good calls. I think he was a lot about the womanizing.
But is he... I wonder, though. I have a friend who one time we had a huge discussion about Captain Kirk, because I said the same thing. I was like, really, all the women? Does he have to bang everyone? And my friend was like, that's kind of reputation that he gets stuck with. And it certainly is true that he had his share of the romantic encounters. But really, in the grand scheme of things, certainly, no more than Riker and, other characters too. I think maybe what he was trying to get at is that I think that Kirk's accomplishments and the things that he did have kind of gotten forgotten in that, what's the word I'm looking for? In putting that reputation with women on him, the rest of him has kind of been forgotten.
Yeah.
The kind of things that he did do, and did do well.
I mean, maybe I need to think more about what people achieved, and maybe I weigh people up by their personalities too much. But I mean, the real problem for me is that Kirk is just seat of the pants all the time.
I see.
That's the real problem. I mean, fair enough if he wants to womanize a bit. I mean, even Picard, ended up having a fling or 3, didn't he?
Sure. Yeah. It's weird if they don't. If the character doesn't.
Yeah, so. But it's just it's too seat of the pants. I mean, I think it's interesting as well because we've seen 2 people playing Kirk and we've seen 2 different representations. Mm-hmm. I think the way that Chris Pine plays Kirk and the way he's written in the Abrams verse are things that I really do approve of because you see more of the reasoning of why he is seat of his pants all the time, and it's because he cares about his crew. And that does come through in TOS, and it's not William Shatner's fault that it's clearer in the Abrams verse, of course, because they've got the benefit of however many years of posterity, and they can say, well, why did this guy do this? Exactly. But, it was a bit of a cowboy, I think. It's like when somebody comes around to do your plumbing and stuff. If Kirk turned up, you'd be like, oh god, this is gonna cost. Somewhere down the line, this is gonna cost.
Yeah, no, but I mean, yes, definitely seat of his pants, but brilliant too. He, I think one of the other things that is forgotten, or maybe not forgotten, but somehow deemed less notable than his romantic escapades, is that the man was just a genius. He really was. I mean, he may have been a bit of a cheat, maybe, but, I mean, if nobody beats a test and he finds a way to beat the test and get away with it, that kind of makes him the most brilliant guy who's ever graduated from the academy. He was seriously smart. Was he as smart as Spock? Yeah, different kind of smart, his smart was very much based on his instincts and listening to himself and listening to his crew and his conscience, and, Spock's was much more based on logic, obviously, but I think it doesn't negate his intelligence, to put him up against Spock.
That's fair enough, yeah.
He was just as smart, and you can't be a captain, you can't reach that rank to where you're given a entire ship, a flagship of the fleet, and not be a really smart guy. So. This
is true, yeah.
Yeah.
I think his humanity is important as well. I think it was great to see how he brought Spock on, because, I mean, you start off and Spock is, very obviously, favouring his Vulcan side, if you like. Mm-hmm. and Kirk is always trying to appeal to the human side, and I think it does work really. Particularly the bit where, spoiler alert, Spock's dying off in Wrath of Khan. To be honest, guys, it is Wrath of Khan, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm doubting myself on everything this evening.
Oh.
Don't know why. Don't know what's going on.
Instincts were right.
Yeah, he's croaking it at the end of Wrath of Khan. Just that bit is amazing, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way to phrase it. And it really does get you especially if you've seen all the series and things leading up to it. And you can see why it's as significant as it is. And, without Kirk as the sort of foil for him, there's no way that could have really meant anything in terms of what Spock was, and
yeah.
So
absolutely. So I'm gonna list Kirk probably. I would put him maybe 3 on my list probably. Yeah, I'm gonna say 3, a good solid 3, because there are other other captains that I liked a lot better. But yeah, great captain, definitely. Pioneer, and certainly an aesthetic, an ideal that I think every captain who's followed has kind of had to live up to.
Yep. He's the benchmark, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you ever see The Captains, the documentary that he did, that William Shatner did?
No. I haven't seen it yet.
It's worth a watch, because it's really, he's interviewing all the other captains, and it's kind of like the one you want to be interviewed is kind of him, but he does it, and it's very interesting. Very interesting look at the captains, the people. My favorite part though was when he's interviewing Chris Pine.
Yeah. And
I think they had met before, but they had never actually really sat down and talked about,
Does he give him a black eye at any point?
Right? No, he did it in public, like right in front of the Paramount Studios, I think,
awesome.
just so that he couldn't, just punch him, But they both, right? Exactly. They both handled it very much with class and, dignity, and I personally love the way Chris Pine portrayed Kirk. I think, like you said, he had the benefit of seeing everything that Shatner had done. He's got the benefit of almost 40 years of fan discussion and analysis of Kirk's character to kind of build on. But I really think that he grabbed that role and completely made it his own too, even with all that expectation on him. I think it's absolutely a credit to his acting that he was able to give us a character we know so well, and yet give us new things all the time about him.
That was one of the things I really appreciated about Into Darkness, actually. And I know that it wasn't the most popular for Trek fans, but there's this moment where they've taken those weird torpedoes that have got all of Khan's friends. I'm going to spoil everything, by the way. So just, anytime I'm talking, put your fingers in your ears.
You've had almost a year,
It's the best way to deal with it, but yeah, exactly. Yeah, get your act together. The bit where they've brought on the torpedoes that have got all of Khan's buddies on the inside of them, basically. And Scotty doesn't know what they are. He's been asked to sign for them. I cannot, in good conscience, sign for these torpedoes. I can't even find a power source and all this sort of stuff. And he just said, well, in that case, I'm going to have to resign my commission. It's the last straw. And just I'd listened to this line. It was like 1 a.m. or something. I'd gone for the midnight premiere or whatever, and this line just sold that character to me. He can do anything now. I don't care. Chris Pine can just do anything, and it's always going to be Kirk. He just looks Scotty in the face after he's told him it's the last straw, and he goes, "What was the first straw?" I thought that right there is James Kirk. There's nothing more Kirk-esque. There was no other way he was going to answer that. What was the first straw? Yeah.
He was great. That whole scene was absolutely probably my favorite part of that whole movie. And I say that as someone who really loves her Spock relationship. But my favorite part of that whole movie was that moment, that kind of fight they had, which is where, he pushes, Scotty pushes, he pushes back, and finally he calls Scotty's bluff. And I think in that moment, Scotty was certainly shocked. But there was a look on his face too of holy crap, I just did that, I called his bluff and I'm gonna have to go with it now, and it was a brilliant performance, that moment between the two of them. But, so, yeah, Kirk, Kirk, what can he say? If you have feelings about Kirk, please go on the forums on the podcast feedback thread and tell us what you think about Kirk. And here's your chance. I know everybody has an opinion on him. If you don't have an opinion on Kirk, you're just hiding it. Because everyone has to have an opinion on Kirk. He's Kirk. He's the original. What can you say? Any final thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, actually, there is one more thing, which is that I've just ranked him at 4 out of 5 for my favourite captains. But in terms of which captains I think I would get on with best if I met them, in real and I was in the Star Trek story, I think he'd rank at number 2.
Oh, there you go.
I think I'd probably get on quite well with him.
I like it. In terms of captains that I would want to hit on me, he's number 1.
Fair dues.
There you go.
Fair dues.